It was a cold evening when Mr. Arman, a successful millionaire, decided to return home earlier than planned. His business trip was supposed to last 2 more days, but sudden changes in meetings allowed him to leave. He wanted to surprise his family, maybe even catch a rare quiet dinner with his teenage son, Daniel. Arman believed surprises brought joy, but this time, the surprise would change his life forever. As his car rolled quietly into the driveway, Arman noticed something unusual. The lights inside the mansion were dim, but there was movement behind the curtains. It was strange. At this hour, his son should have been at his evening tuition class, and the maid, Maria, usually finished her chores early. Arman felt a wave of curiosity wash over him. He turned off the car engine and stepped out silently. Instead of ringing the doorbell or announcing his arrival, he chose to walk in quietly. Something in his heart whispered that he should stay hidden for a while. The heavy wooden door creaked softly as he pushed it open. The silence inside felt heavier than usual. Only faint voices echoed from the living room. He recognized Maria's soft tone, mixed with Daniel's nervous replies. Arman frowned. Why were they talking in such hushed voices? He carefully placed his suitcase near the entrance and walked down the hallway. Every step felt longer, every second louder in his chest. His mind began to spin stories. What could they be hiding? As he got closer, he saw a glimpse of his son. Daniel sat on the sofa, his body stiff, his eyes avoiding Maria. The maid stood close to him, whispering something that Arman could not hear clearly. She looked worried, almost scared. Arman's breath caught in his throat. His mind flashed with dark thoughts. Was Maria trying to manipulate his son? Was Daniel in trouble? Or worse, was there something more shameful happening under his own roof? His heart pounded faster. He wanted to storm in, demand answers, shouted both of them. But another part of him wanted to watch quietly, to see the truth before reacting. So, he stayed hidden in the shadows, just around the corner. Daniel finally spoke, his voice trembling. Maria, what if he finds out? He will never forgive me. Arman's eyes widened. His own son was keeping secrets from him? Forgiveness? For what? Maria placed her hand gently on Daniel's shoulder. You cannot hide it forever. One day, he will know. And when that day comes, you must be strong. Arman felt his blood run cold. The words cut into him like a knife. Hide it forever? What were they hiding? The millionaire, who once thought he had control over everything in his life, his business, his wealth, his family, suddenly felt powerless. He leaned against the wall, his breathing shallow, his mind racing. The room grew quieter. Daniel covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. Maria bent closer, whispering something into his ear. Arman could not hear the words, but the picture before him was unbearable. The silence stretched. The only sound was the ticking clock on the wall. Arman's chest tightened as he debated with himself. Should he reveal his presence now, or wait a little longer? His instincts told him that something bigger was unfolding, something that would shatter his peace. He stepped back into the hallway, his polished shoes making the faintest sound against the marble floor. Suddenly, Daniel lifted his head, his eyes darting toward the noise. Panic flashed across his face. Maria followed his gaze, her body tensing. Did you hear that? She whispered. Arman froze. For a moment, he thought they might have caught him spying. But neither of them moved. Instead, Daniel stood up, restless, his face pale. Arman's heart pounded like a drum. He clenched his fists, trying to control the storm rising inside him. This was not the homecoming he had imagined. He had expected smiles, maybe laughter, maybe even a warm hug from his son. But what he found instead was fear, secrecy, and tension so thick that it suffocated the air. The man who was admired by thousands, who commanded respect in boardrooms, now stood helpless in his own house, unsure of what truth waited for him. As the seconds passed, the urge to confront them grew stronger. But before he could step forward, Maria's trembling voice reached his ears again. Daniel, we must decide tonight. Tomorrow may be too late. Arman's world spun. Decide what? Too late for what? His jaw tightened, his pulse raced. Every part of him wanted to shout, demand the truth. But he didn't. Not yet. Because deep inside, something told him whatever truth was hiding behind their words, it was something that would change everything. Forever. And so, the millionaire stood in silence, his return no longer a simple surprise. It was the beginning of a storm he never expected. Armand stood frozen in the hallway, his mind a battlefield of thoughts. Every word he had overheard replayed in his head. What if he finds out? He will never forgive me. We must decide tonight. These words stung him like poison. He was a man who built empires with sharp decisions, but in that moment, he felt powerless. Something was happening inside his own home, and he had no control over it. Daniel paced back and forth in the living room, his hands shaking. Maria followed him with worried eyes, whispering softly, as if trying to calm him. Armand noticed how pale his son looked, how heavy his steps were. It was not the behavior of a carefree teenager. It was the behavior of someone hiding a burden. The millionaire took a quiet step back, blending into the shadows. He did not want to be discovered yet. He needed to see more, to hear more. Daniel suddenly stopped pacing and clenched his fists. His voice broke the silence. Maria, you don't understand. If he finds out the truth, he will hate me. He won't look at me the same way again. Maria's face softened. She placed her hand gently on his arm. No, Daniel. A father's love is strong. He may be angry at first, but in time, he will forgive. You must have faith. Armand's chest tightened. Forgive? Hate? His son was talking about him. But why? What had Daniel done that needed forgiveness? For years, Armand had believed his son was quiet, maybe even a little distant, but innocent. He thought Daniel lived a simple life between school, books, and his friends. But now, hearing these words, he realized there was a whole world inside Daniel's heart that he had never seen. Armand stepped closer, his polished shoes making the faintest tap. He stopped when Daniel suddenly turned his head, his eyes scanning the room nervously. For a moment, it felt as though his son could sense him nearby. Armand quickly stepped back, holding his breath until Daniel looked away again. Maria walked to the window, pulling the curtain slightly aside. She looked out, her face filled with worry. Then she whispered, almost to herself. Why tonight? Why does it feel like everything is closing in? Armand's blood ran cold. Was someone threatening them? Was his son in danger? Or was it something even darker? Daniel sank into the sofa again, covering his face with his hands. His voice cracked with emotion. I never wanted this. I wish things were different. I wish I had told him before. Armand gritted his teeth. Told him what? Every unanswered question gnawed at his heart. He remembered the times he had been away, endless meetings, business trips, late nights at the office. He thought he was securing his son's future. But maybe, in doing so, he had missed the signs. Maybe Daniel had been fighting battles alone, battles his father should have been there for. The silence in the living room stretched again. Maria sat next to Daniel, her voice low but steady. Listen to me. Secrets don't stay hidden forever. And when the truth comes, it will hurt more if he hears it from someone else. You must gather courage. Daniel shook his head violently. No, Maria. You don't know him the way I do. He is strict. He doesn't forgive mistakes easily. If he finds out, I will lose him. Armand's heart shattered. Lose him? He was his only son. Nothing could break that bond. Or could it? For the first time in years, the powerful millionaire felt like a stranger in his own house. He realized he had built walls of success around himself but left his son outside. And now, Daniel was trembling on the other side of those walls, afraid to come in. The clock ticked loudly, echoing in the silence. Every sound felt heavier, sharper. Maria finally stood up and walked toward the hallway, the very hallway where Armin was hiding. His heart raced. If she walked a few more steps, she would see him. Quickly, Armin slipped into the study room and hid behind the door, holding his breath. Through the small gap, he watched as Maria peeked into the corridor, her eyes scanning for movement. After a few seconds, she sighed and returned to the living room. Daniel's voice came again, softer this time. "Do you think he will ever accept me after this?" Maria's reply was quiet, almost like a prayer. Sometimes, love is tested in the hardest ways. If he truly loves you, he will accept you, no matter what. Armin's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Love. Acceptance. Forgiveness. Words that should have been simple in a father-son relationship now felt like riddles filled with pain. He leaned against the wall, closing his eyes. His surprise return had turned into a nightmare of doubt. He wanted to storm in, to demand the truth, to shout, "What are you hiding from me?" But something inside held him back. He needed to know more. He needed to hear the truth before exposing himself. And so, the powerful man, who was feared and respected in the outside world, stood silently in his own house, like a stranger, like a spy watching his son and Maid share a secret that could destroy everything. Armin whispered under his breath, his voice filled with pain. "What are you hiding from me, Daniel? What are you so afraid to tell me?" But no answer came. Only silence, heavy and suffocating, wrapping around him like chains. And deep down, Armin knew this was only the beginning. The house felt like a stranger to Armin that night. Every corner carried whispers, every shadow seemed alive. He had always believed his home was a place of peace, a safe haven built with his hard work. But now, it felt like a stage where a secret drama was unfolding without him. From the study room, Armin watched Daniel and Maria carefully. Their movements, their words, their expressions, everything looked suspicious. The more he observed, the more his heart burned with confusion. Maria stood up suddenly and whispered, "Come, Daniel." "Not here. It's not safe to talk in the open." Armin's pulse quickened. Not safe? In his own house? Daniel hesitated, his eyes full of fear. "But what if he comes back tonight?" Maria's expression hardened. "We don't have a choice. We must prepare before it's too late." Without another word, Maria guided Daniel toward the staircase. Their steps were hurried, filled with unease. Armin followed silently, careful to keep his distance. The mansion was large, with long hallways and high ceilings, but every creak of the floor sounded like thunder to his ears. He clenched his fists, his breath shallow, as he trailed behind them like a shadow. They climbed the stairs and walked toward the far end of the corridor. Armin's heart sank as he realized they were heading straight to his private study room, the one place in the house where he kept his most personal files and valuable possessions. His throat went dry. What business did they have there? Maria opened the door slowly, checking the corridor one last time before entering. Daniel followed, his steps reluctant. The door clicked shut behind them. Armin rushed forward, his chest tightening with every heartbeat. He pressed his ear against the door, trying to catch their voices. Inside, he could hear the sound of drawers opening, papers rustling. Maria's low voice spoke urgently. "We don't have much time. If he sees this, everything will fall apart." Daniel's trembling reply made Armin's stomach twist. "But Maria, it's his. We shouldn't even be touching these things." Armin's face turned pale. His private study contained not only his business files but also old photographs, letters from his late wife, and secrets of his own life. What were they searching for? His anger rose like fire, but before bursting in, he forced himself to wait. He needed proof. Through the narrow crack between the door and the frame, Armin peeked inside. The sight nearly stopped his heart. Daniel was holding a small wooden box, an old, locked box Armin had not touched in years. It was hidden at the bottom of the cabinet, covered with files. That box contained letters from the past, photographs of his wife, and documents only Armin knew about. How had Daniel found it? And why was Maria helping him? Armin's breathing grew harsh. He pressed his fist against the wall to steady himself. Memories rushed back, the nights after his wife's death, the promises he made to protect Daniel, the secrets he buried in that very box. And now, his son was holding it with trembling hands. Daniel whispered, his voice breaking. "I can't do this. If he finds out, he will never forgive me." Maria stepped closer, her tone firm but gentle. "You must be brave, Daniel. The truth cannot stay locked forever. You owe it to him, and to yourself." Armin's vision blurred with rage and confusion. The truth? What truth? He could no longer control himself. Pushing the door open with sudden force, he stepped inside. The sound made both Daniel and Maria jump in shock. The wooden box nearly slipped from Daniel's hands. His eyes widened with terror when he saw his father standing at the door, his face dark and unreadable. Armin's voice was low, but it carried thunder. "What are you doing here?" Daniel froze, his lips trembling, unable to speak. Maria stepped forward quickly, trying to shield him. "Sir, it's not what you think." Armin cut her off with a glare. His eyes locked on the box in Daniel's hands. His voice shook with fury. "That box, how dare you touch it? Do you even know what it contains?" Daniel clutched the box tightly, his hands shaking. "Father, please. I can explain." Armin's anger exploded. "Explain? What is there to explain? You sneak into my study, open my cabinets, and steal what is not yours. And you, Maria, you were supposed to take care of this house. Instead, you help him betray me?" Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He took a step forward, his voice cracking. "No, Father, it's not like that. I didn't mean to." Armin's chest heaved with rage, but behind his anger was fear. Fear of what lay inside that box. Fear of what his son might have already discovered. The silence in the room was unbearable. The ticking of the wall clock felt like hammer strikes. Maria finally spoke, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Sir, please, let him talk. There are things you don't know. Things he has kept inside for too long." Armin's eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched. He looked from Maria to his son, who stood trembling with the box pressed to his chest. And for the first time in years, the mighty millionaire felt powerless. He took a step closer, his voice deep and demanding. "Then tell me, Daniel. Right now. What secret are you hiding from me?" Daniel's lips parted, but no words came out. His hands shook violently, his face pale. The silence stretched until it felt like the walls themselves were closing in. Armin's eyes burned with impatience. His voice roared. "Speak! What are you hiding?" But Daniel could only whisper, his voice breaking into a whisper. "Father, if I tell you, you will never look at me the same way again." And in that moment, Armin knew whatever truth his son carried, it was darker and heavier than anything he had ever imagined. The box slipped slightly in Daniel's grip, as if ready to reveal its contents. Armin's heart pounded. His entire world stood on the edge of discovery. The room shook with tension. The wooden box trembled in Daniel's hands as if it carried 1,000 storms inside it. Armin's eyes blazed with fury, his voice echoing off the walls. "Put that box down. Right now." Daniel's fingers tightened around it. His lips parted, but the words died in his throat. He looked like a prisoner caught with no escape. Maria stepped forward quickly, her hands raised as if to calm the fire. "Sir, please, listen to him. It's not what you think." Armin's glare snapped toward her. His voice thundered. "Enough. I trusted you, Maria. I opened my home to you, and this is how you repay me? Helping my son sneak into my private study?" Maria's face paled, but she did not back away. Her voice trembled, yet she stood her ground. "I did not betray you, sir. I was only trying to protect Daniel. He has been carrying this burden alone for too long. He needed help." Armin's jaw tightened. "Burden? What burden?" What lies has he been feeding you? Daniel's voice cracked as he finally spoke. Father, it's not a lie. I was afraid to tell you. Afraid? Armin's laugh was bitter, sharp. Afraid of me? Your own father? What have you done, Daniel? What crime have you committed that makes you hide like a thief in your own house? Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He lowered his gaze, unable to meet his father's piercing stare. It's not a crime, it's the truth. A truth I thought you could never accept. Armin's chest tightened. The weight of those words pressed down on him. The truth I could never accept. His pulse quickened. What could it be? What was his son hiding that required courage to confess? Maria tried to speak again. Sir, if you just give him a chance. Silence. Armin roared. His voice rattled the windows. I want to hear it from him. From my son. No excuses. No interruptions. The millionaire's towering presence filled the room. Daniel's shoulders shook under the weight of his father's fury. The box pressed tightly against his chest, as if it were his shield. Armin stepped closer, his face inches away from Daniel's. His voice lowered, heavy with pain. Look at me, Daniel. I am your father. Tell me the truth. What is inside that box? What are you hiding from me? Daniel's lips trembled. He finally raised his eyes, and for the first time, Armin saw pure fear in them. Not fear of punishment. Not fear of anger. But fear of losing love. I didn't mean to keep it from you, Daniel whispered, his voice breaking. But I thought, if you knew, you would never look at me the same way. Armin's heart twisted. His fists clenched at his sides. Daniel, I built this empire for you. I gave you everything. Do you really think my love can be broken so easily? Tell me. Daniel's tears spilled. His voice shook like glass. It's about Mother, and about me. The words hit Armin like a stone. He staggered back slightly, his breath caught in his throat. Your mother? Maria lowered her head, her hands trembling. Daniel nodded slowly, gripping the box tighter. Yes. Something she left behind. Something about me. The silence that followed was deafening. Armin's chest rose and fell in sharp bursts. Memories of his late wife flooded his mind, her gentle smile, her fading voice, her final days. Could it be possible? Had she hidden something from him? Armin's voice came out hoarse, shaking with both anger and fear. Daniel, open that box. Right now. Daniel's body froze. He hugged the box tighter, shaking his head. No. Not yet. Please, Father, I need more time. Armin's patience snapped. He reached out, his large hands gripping the box. Daniel resisted, his knuckles white as he held on. The two pulled at it, the tension threatening to break it apart. Give it to me. Armin roared. No. Daniel shouted back, his voice louder than it had ever been. Tears streamed down his face. If you read what's inside now, without hearing me first, you'll hate me forever. The words sliced through Armin's heart. His grip loosened slightly. His son had never raised his voice against him before. The desperation in Daniel's eyes was raw, unshakable. Maria quickly stepped between them, her arms stretched out to stop the clash. Please. Both of you, stop this. You're hurting each other. Armin stepped back, his chest heaving, his face twisted with rage and confusion. His powerful voice broke into a whisper. What could possibly be so terrible, that my own son fears I will hate him? Daniel's shoulders collapsed, his head hanging low. Because it's not just about you, Father. It's about who I really am. The room grew still. The ticking clock, the faint rustle of the curtains, even the sound of their breathing seemed to fade. Armin stared at his son, the words echoing in his head. Who I really am. The truth was right in front of him, but still out of reach. He could feel it pressing against the walls of the room, waiting to explode. Armin took a deep breath, his voice softer now, almost pleading. Then tell me, Daniel. Tell me the truth before it destroys us both. Daniel lifted his eyes, filled with both fear and courage. His lips parted, but the words trembled at the edge. Maria placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, silently urging him to speak. And just when Daniel seemed ready to reveal the secret, the sound of a sudden knock on the door echoed through the mansion. All three froze. The box slipped slightly in Daniel's hands. Armin's eyes darted toward the door, suspicion filling him. Who else could be here at this hour? The confrontation was interrupted, but the storm inside the room was only growing stronger. The sharp knock on the mansion door echoed like thunder. All three froze in place: Armin, Daniel, and Maria. The box trembled in Daniel's hands. Armin's voice cut through the silence. Stay here. He marched down the staircase, his footsteps heavy with anger and suspicion. Each knock grew louder, faster, until finally he pulled the door open. But the porch was empty. Only the cold night air greeted him. The street outside was silent, not a single shadow in sight. Armin scanned the darkness, his jaw tightening. Whoever knocked had vanished. He shut the door slowly, unease crawling across his skin. Something about the night felt cursed, as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. When he returned upstairs, Daniel and Maria were standing close together, their faces pale. The box was still clutched tightly in Daniel's arms. Armin's patience had reached its limit. His voice was harsh. Enough games. No more delays. Tell me the truth now. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands shook as he placed the wooden box gently on the table. For a long moment, he stared at it as if it were alive. His lips trembled before he finally spoke. Father, this box doesn't just belong to you. It belongs to me too. Mother left it for us, for me, before she died. Armin's eyes narrowed. Impossible. That box contains her letters, her memories. I locked it away because it was too painful. Daniel nodded weakly. Yes. But there's more inside. Something you never knew. Armin's heart thudded painfully in his chest. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on the box. Show me. Daniel hesitated, then slowly opened the box. The old hinges creaked. Inside were photographs, folded letters, and one sealed envelope with Daniel's name written in his mother's handwriting. Armin's breath caught in his throat. That envelope, he had never seen it before. His wife must have hidden it before her death. With trembling hands, Daniel picked it up. His eyes glistened with tears. I've read it, Father. I've read her words. And they changed everything. Armin's chest tightened. What did it say? Daniel opened the envelope and unfolded the fragile paper. His mother's handwriting stretched across the page, filled with love and pain. His voice cracked as he read aloud. My dearest Daniel, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. I want you to know that you were never alone. There is something about you, something about our family, that your father doesn't know yet. One day, you must tell him. He may be angry, he may not understand, but never forget you are my son, and I love you more than anything in this world. Daniel's voice broke. His tears fell onto the paper. He looked up at his father. She wanted me to tell you, but I was too afraid. Armin's heart ached. His wife's words echoed in his mind. Something about our family, something I don't know. He reached out, gripping the edge of the table to steady himself. What is it, Daniel? What truth have you been hiding from me? Daniel wiped his tears, his voice trembling. Father, I am not the son you think I am. Armin's breath hitched. What do you mean? Daniel clutched the letter to his chest. His face was pale, but his eyes carried a desperate courage. I'm different. Mother knew it. She accepted me. But I was afraid you never would. Armin stared at him, confusion swirling inside. Different? How? Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. Because the truth is, I am not your only son. The words hit like lightning. Armin's body stiffened. His face twisted in shock. What are you saying? Daniel's hands shook violently. Mother, she left another secret. I have a brother, father. Someone you never knew. And I've been in contact with him. The room went cold. Armin staggered back, his mind spinning. A brother? That's impossible. Your mother, she would have told me. Maria stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. Sir, it is true. I have seen the letters myself. Daniel has been meeting him in secret. That is why he was so afraid. He didn't know how to tell you. Armin's world tilted. His heart pounded in his chest like a war drum. Another son? Hidden from him all these years? The image of his late wife flashed in his mind, her soft eyes, her whispered goodbyes. Had she carried a secret to her grave? Daniel dropped to his knees, clutching the letter. I didn't want to hide it from you, Father. I didn't know how. I was afraid you would hate me for keeping it from you. Armin's lips trembled. His anger, his confusion, his grief all collided inside him. He wanted to shout, to deny, to reject the idea. But deep down, the pain in Daniel's eyes told him it was true. He whispered, almost to himself, another son. Daniel looked up, his face desperate. Please, Father. Don't hate me. I only wanted you to know the truth. I only wanted us to be a family, even if it's not the family you imagined. The room fell into silence. The truth had been spoken, but its weight was unbearable. Armin turned away, his fists clenched, his heart breaking. He had returned home expecting joy, and instead found a storm that threatened to tear his family apart. For the first time, the mighty millionaire was left speechless, caught between anger at the betrayal and love for the son who still knelt before him. Armin stood near the window, his back turned, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The night outside was quiet, but inside the mansion, the air was thick with silence and pain. Daniel still knelt on the floor, clutching the letter, his tears soaking the fragile paper. Maria stood nearby, her hands clasped tightly, as if praying for peace. The mighty millionaire, feared by businessmen and respected by strangers, now felt like a lost man in his own house. His wife's secret burned in his heart. Another son, hidden from me all these years. The thought crushed him. Finally, Armin spoke, his voice hoarse and trembling. Why, Daniel? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Daniel raised his head slowly. His eyes were red, his voice broken. Because I was afraid. You are strong, Father. Too strong. You never forgive weakness. And I thought, if I told you, you would see me as a traitor. Armin's fists tightened. A traitor? You are my son. His voice cracked. Nothing can change that. Daniel's tears fell harder. But he is my brother. And hiding him felt like betraying you. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to lose either of you. Those words pierced Armin's heart. He realized that his son was not trying to hurt him, he was only trying to protect the bond between a father and a brother he had never known. Armin closed his eyes. Memories of his late wife flooded him, her smile, her silence, her secrets. Perhaps she had reasons he would never understand. Perhaps she believed the truth would break him. But now, the truth had broken its way out, through their son. Slowly, Armin turned around. His eyes were wet, though he tried to hide it. He stepped toward Daniel, who still clutched the letter like a lifeline. Daniel, Armin said softly, his voice trembling. Look at me. Daniel lifted his tearful eyes. Armin knelt down in front of him. For the first time in years, the powerful father lowered himself to the level of his son. His hands, rough from years of building an empire, reached out and held Daniel's trembling shoulders. You are my son. Nothing can take that away. Not secrets, not letters, not even another child I never knew.
You are mine. Do you understand?
Daniel broke into sobs, collapsing into his father's arms. The box slipped from his grip, falling open on the floor, scattering photographs and letters across the carpet. But neither of them cared. Father and son clung to each other, their hearts breaking and healing at the same time. Maria turned her face away, tears glistening in her eyes. She had served the family for years, but never had she seen such raw emotion. She whispered a prayer of thanks under her breath. Armin held his son tightly. I should have been here for you. I should have listened. I was so busy chasing the world that I forgot to look into your heart. Forgive me, Daniel. Daniel shook his head, his voice muffled against his father's chest. No, father. Forgive me. I should have trusted you. I was a coward. Armin pulled back slightly, cupping his son's face in his hands. No, you were not a coward. You were only afraid of losing me. But you can never lose me. Do you hear me? Never. Daniel nodded, his tears flowing freely, but his heart finally lighter. For the first time, Armin picked up the scattered letters and photographs from the floor. His wife's handwriting danced across the pages, each word filled with love and sorrow. One photograph caught his eye. It was of his wife holding a small child, a boy who looked strikingly like Daniel. His breath caught. Could it be true? He pressed the photo against his chest, whispering, "Why didn't you tell me, my love? Why did you carry this secret alone?" Silence filled the room again, but this time, it was not heavy with fear. It was soft, almost peaceful. Armin stood and looked at Maria. Thank you, for protecting him. For standing by him when I was not there. Maria bowed her head respectfully, her eyes wet. I only did what his mother would have wanted. Armin turned back to his son. His voice was steadier now, filled with determination. Tomorrow, you will take me to him. Your brother. If he exists, if this is true, I will meet him. I will not hide from the truth anymore. Daniel's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and relief flashing across his face. You will accept him? Armin nodded slowly. I don't know how I will feel when I see him. I don't know if I will have questions, or anger, or sorrow. But one thing I do know, I will not reject him. He is your brother. And if he carries even a piece of your mother's heart, then he is part of this family. Daniel's lips trembled as fresh tears spilled. He fell into his father's arms once more, whispering, Thank you, father. Thank you. Armin closed his eyes, holding his son tightly, as if making up for all the lost years. For the first time in a long time, the mansion did not feel empty. It felt alive with truth, with forgiveness, with the possibility of healing. The night that began with suspicion and anger ended with tears and love. The millionaire who thought wealth could buy everything had learned a painful truth: real treasure was not money, but the bonds of family. And as the clock struck midnight, Armin whispered to himself, I came home early to surprise my son, but tonight, it is he who surprised me.